Happy Boxing Day, everyone, and welcome to my video about my favorite anime and why. I specifically put the and why in there because anybody can make a favorites list. And favorites lists are great. I enjoy reading people's favorites lists. It gives you an idea of what sort of person they are, what sort of things they may or may not enjoy. And I also really liked the idea of making my own, especially for this first real video. My list is not necessarily all obscure titles, nor all mainstream. They're just titles I happen to like. I'm making no effort to say that I have the highest taste in the world, or that I'm at all in the authority of a reviewer or the authority on media of any kind. These are just a short list of 10 shows that I really enjoy and think that you would like too, depending on what kind of person you are. So, right into the list. These are in no particular order. They're very arbitrary. One that I watched not too long ago that I really enjoyed is Katanagatari. Now, Katanagatari is about a young man who ends up meeting this strategist on an island where he's lived his entire life in isolation, as well as his sister, who is the heir to this certain sort of style, or sword style, that does not use a sword. Yes, that doesn't make sense to me without context either. Basically, this strategist woman asks him to come with her to collect these 10, or I think it was 12, deviant blades made by this swordsmith Kiki, I believe, something like that. And it's very interesting, a lot of fun, very different setup whenever it comes to anime. Because this is one of the few TV series that each episode is an hour long, more accustomed to American TV than... I don't know where I was going to go with that in particular sentence. Basically, each episode is around an hour long. Sort of like American TV, which I just said, but whatever. And whatever. I've said that several times now. Because I don't always have the perfect train of thought, because I'm a human being. The perfect train of thought, because there's only one, as you all know. Katanagatari is a really good show, written by a really good writer and directed by a really, really good studio in Shaft. And I personally had a lot of enjoyment in it. I love the characters, I love the animation. It's a different sort of art style, but not like Kaiba different, just different. The action's really well animated, and it's a lot of fun, in my opinion. And I think that people who like action anime that create this sort of world. It's also a period piece, by the way. If you don't like those, and I don't know what's wrong with you. Number 2, this is a pretty popular one because, of course, it is Gureen Lagann, or Tengen Toppa Gureen Lagann, if you're going to say its entire Japanese name. This show, at least, is the reason that I started giving mecha more of a chance. I had seen a couple mecha before this show, but I was never really that into them. And I probably did never finish them. But because Gureen Lagann pulled me in the way it did, and because it had these great characters and great animation that it does, I have started watching more mecha. I started watching Macross a while back, and I love that show as well. It exposed me to an entire genre of super robot shows. Not saying that Macross is one. It's just another mecha. Whatever. And I don't know. If you love anime, then you should love Gureen Lagann. Because it's sort of like one of those shows that you're expected to have seen anyways. But I know that list of shows that people have expected to be seen, or let me rethink that sentence. Shows that people have expected you to see is longer and longer depending on who you're talking to. Some people expect you to have seen every single episode of Monogatari ever. Some people think that if you haven't seen Sword Art Online that you're not a real anime fan, and I think that's a little bold personally. I've seen Sword Art Online, but it's definitely not anywhere on this list. But it doesn't deserve to be. It doesn't deserve to be carried in any regard because it's just a crappy show that a lot of people like. There are 1,000 other shows that came before it that are just like it, and there are 1,000 other shows that came after that are just like it. But I'm getting off on Sword Art Online now, so whatever. Sorry. And speaking of Monogatari, number 3, Bakemonogatari. This is one of the few harem shows that I've seen. And even though it is technically a harem show, it sure doesn't feel like it. And I had to be pretty much told by someone that, this is technically a harem. And I was quick to try to say it wasn't. Because if you watch the show, you'll get what I mean. Yes, there is one male character who's surrounded by lots of beautiful women, or girls, depending on it. Well, yeah, some of them are very young. I really shouldn't say women. Actually, all of them are pretty young if I think about it, except for Shinobu, who's a few thousand years old. Yeah, I'd say that's okay. Shinobu's bae, by the way. Anyways, Bakemonogatari is a lot of fun. It's very artsy. It has a great script and really good flow. All the stories are interesting, and the openings, that's something else that's pretty cool about the show. The opening changes every single arc, or every time. It changes depending on what characters are in the focus and what the arc is. Like sometimes whenever, about a little ways into the series, Araragi and Senjogahara go on a date, and that's the entire episode. So instead of having Sengoku's opening, like after this episode, it has Senjogahara's opening again, which I thought was a neat touch since Sengoku wasn't in that episode, even though it was technically entering into her arc. Which is neat, because this show thought of everything. So it's cool. You should watch it. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great entrance into a really great series of anime that I have not yet finished, but have enjoyed so far. Nisa Monogatari is really fun too. Though some people try to say it's the worst of the series, I really, really liked it. Moving on to one of the few long-running shonen I've seen, even though it's ended in 2000 and I don't know, Hunter x Hunter, which has a manga that consistently goes on a hiatus because of, I believe it was the mangaka's health, that's the thing. Anyways, that's not important. The anime is amazing, and I'm talking about in particular the 2011 anime. I've not seen the original, though I hear it's alright, but it ends way too soon and way too early into the actual manga story. What I've seen in this show is amazing, and it's one of the few long-running shonen that have kept me invested long enough to watch the entire show. I think I don't think there's another one like that I've seen like this. This is one of the only ones. I've, of course, started watching shows like D. Gray Man, Naruto, not that good. I started watching Dragon Ball. That's fun, but it's a show that I'd have to sporadically watch here and now, not continue to watch all in one sitting practically. I watched Hunter x Hunter practically every day from the beginning of this last summer till the end of it. And I do not regret having done that at all because it's such a wonderful, fun show. It's one of the few shows I gave a 10 out of 10 rating to, and I very much think that you'd like it. It has something for everyone. One of the cool things about it is every single arc does something that the show hadn't done before, and something that you may have not even expected of the kind of show that this is. In fact, you might even think it's almost a kid's show from the first few episodes because it's set up very simply and innocently. Yet as the show goes on, it gets darker and more intense. It sucks you in like a vacuum, practically. And it's just a wonderful thrill ride of emotion, and it has great animation, great characters, just like all the other shows on this list, I guess. I'll try to refrain from saying that again. Hunter x Hunter 2011. Thumbs up, Aaron's approval. That's my name, by the way, Aaron. You can call me that in the comments. Comments. That's a hard word to say whenever you're not focusing on words. Ha ha ha. Number 5. The best. Okay. I say this very carefully because I know there are a lot of people who are fans of this type of show that will think that I'm crazy for saying this. Steins Gate, my number 5 pick, is my favorite time travel tale of all time. Not the book The Time Traveler, not Doctor Who, Steins Gate, because this is one of the only shows that not only uses time travel, but uses the act of time travel to tell a story. Weirdly enough, they never go back in time longer than a few days, I believe. If I'm not remembering that right, you can probably tell me in the comments, just like people always do whenever you get something wrong in a YouTube video. But they use the act of time travel more than they do actually time traveling. And in fact, you spend most of the show having not had a single time travel-y thing other than sending a text message back in time happen. And that by itself makes everything messed up and the entire plane of existence changes because of it, which is a super cool idea. I love little things turning into big things in writing. I don't know. I'm a writer myself, so I love seeing the effort put into having all these little things set out in stone for writing. I just really appreciate good writing. I love Shakespeare. I love all sorts of stuff like that. I have Game of Thrones up there, which is a great series of books I recommend as well. If you're looking for something a little darker than Lord of the Rings, but still a fantasy. Yeah, there's a lot of them. That's just some of them. I have the first book in my bedroom somewhere. Whatever. Moving on, I guess. I get easily off track, apparently. Ha ha ha. Number 6 is Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, this is going to be on every weeaboo's list in the world because it's so freaking popular and relevant in anime culture that it's like the go-to anime. Whenever you think of anime, you think of Fullmetal Alchemist. And it has the right to be that way, pretty much, because it's wonderful and a lot of fun. And it has great animation, it has a great plot. The characters are really interesting and different. Very different from the normal shonen protagonist in a way. Seeing how Ed's almost sort of a pessimist. I don't know if that's the right word, if I'm using the right word there, but, all these characters have several layers to them, and no one's just a one-dimensional whatever the heck. I really wanted to say a different word there. Whatever. Number 7. Now, most people would have probably put this show's father show on this list as opposed to this one. But I've not seen Bacano, so I really, really like Durarara. I even have a couple of the original light novels, which are really, really good as well. And depending on where you get them, I've seen them at Barnes & Nobles and other places. They're good. I recommend them as well. I also wasted money on a couple SAO light novels on a joke. They're just okay. They're just okay. Anyways, back to Durarara. What this show does, just like Bacano, which I hear does this a little bit better, but I've not seen it, so I'm going to talk about Durarara, is it takes lots of these seemingly unconnected stories and smushes them all in one place so that they're all eventually intertwined and important to one another. And it has lots of really cool characters. In fact, I'd say that what holds this show together is this glue of coolness. All these characters are cool. They have cool personalities. They're cool looking. Izaya's a cool villain. Chizuo is a cool badass. It's all awesome. And if you want to watch the show for no other reason than to have something cool to look at, then I can recommend it for that reason. But there's more to it. The twist that it has at the end, I hear some people say is a little bit too convenient, but it just blew my mind whenever I first saw it. I'm not going to spoil it here. You should just watch the show. And Durarara has one of my favorite openings, has some of my favorite characters, and it's very high on my recommendation list. I believe I gave it a 9 out of 10, which may seem a little bit high, but it's my personal rating, so who cares? Moving on to something, this is actually probably the oldest show on my list, even though I've seen lots of really good older anime. It just happens to be that most of my top 10 come from shows that happened sometime towards the late 2000s to modern day. Because I became an anime fan in 2013. What do you expect, you know? I've only pretty much seen stuff around my time. I try to watch older shows, and I've been going out of my way to do so, but that doesn't always happen. Number 8, Cowboy Bebop. Now, I was so excited whenever I heard about the plot of this show that I watched no more videos about it and just went out of my way to buy it on DVD. I believe I have it right up here. Yeah, here it is, Cowboy Bebop. Wonderful show. So much so that I refused to watch it on a crappy streaming site and actually went out of the way to pay for it myself to watch it on DVD. And I do not regret doing so. It is wonderful. Each episode has its own isolated story with a somewhat overarching plot. But the way it's set up, certain episodes, you don't have to watch it chronologically to enjoy it, because each episode has its own beginning, middle, and end, allowing it to have an episodic plot that anybody can get into. And if I said that the glue that held together Durarara was coolness, this show is just a big bucket of cool. It's not holding anything together, it's just coolness. And not coolness in the same way I'd say Space Dandy, but you could argue Space Dandy is just a cool comedy, and it's very similar to Cowboy Bebop in certain ways, though Bebop takes itself much more seriously. I forgot where I was going. Shoot! Basically, Bebop has one of my favorite MCs. It has some of my favorite side characters, some of my favorite space stories, period, that include Star Wars, Star Trek, and whatever. And I also highly recommend it. Should I just call this my anime recommendations? Because I've been saying that a whole lot. Dang, son. Oh, man. I saw this picture of a Chinese kid. I shouldn't say that. Maybe I should. Whatever. His name, it was a picture of him going like, oh, like that, realizing something, right? And underneath his name was Dam Sun. I don't know, but every time I see that picture, it makes me laugh so hard. Oh boy, I don't have the editing skills to put a pop-up here with that picture, but eventually maybe. I even got a new camera. What I'm filming on right now is my MacBook webcam, which isn't terrible, but it's not a video camera. I have it charging somewhere over here. Anyways, expect some better video quality and audio quality soon, because it'll get a whole lot better. Anyways, back on track. Wow, this is almost 20 minutes long now. Who cares? People will watch it. Number 9, Serial Experiments Lain. Now, this show is freaking weird and makes little to no sense, and I love it. Also came out in 98 rather. Same year as Cowboy Bebop. It was a year of experiments, as I've heard several people call it, and it deserves that name because 1999, 8, dang it, has a lot of amazing anime, and pretty much if you see something with 99 on it, you'll at least be entertained. Because 99, 8, dang! People are gonna think I have Tourette's now. Goodness gracious. Whatever. Lain doesn't make any sense, but it does make sense, but it doesn't make sense. And then you're just left crying in a puddle. It's 12 episodes of confusion, trippy imagery, and just interesting stuff. It focuses on a character that becomes the internet. I'll leave it at that. Watch it at your own discretion. It's kind of weird and weirdly scary. As you can imagine, seeing how this video is going to be a part of the internet, I'm sure that Lain will see it. Crazy world. Whatever. And my number 10 is actually, weirdly enough, I don't have any reason for this to be my favorite anime, but it is. I also have it up here, one sec. Putting Cowboy Bebop back. And pulling out... Shoot, where is it? Oh, here it is. Kino's Journey. And you cannot see it because of the glare of the screen. There you go. Wonderful show. Also, kind of episodic. The exact same way as Cowboy Bebop is. But it's a way different show. Way different. That's some good grammar, it is. Goodness. This show focuses on a girl / it's a girl. It's a girl, believe me. Some people try to say that she's a boy, but she's a girl. It's obvious in her backstory episode. She goes from country to country in a world where most countries are only the size of a city. It spends 3 days there to find out what sort of people live there, what kind of culture they have, and how they live, and then moves on traveling. Her life's goal is to travel, and that's it. On her talking motorbike, which during the first time I watched the show, I had a theory that she was just some sort of crazy and the motorbike didn't talk, but then towards the end of the show, they have an episode whenever it talks to something else, and it actually responds, and I don't know. It's just sort of an interesting thing to talk about, really. Hermes is awesome, too. I would totally get a Hermes if I had the ability to, because I can't ride a motorbike, but I'd learn if I had a Hermes. Awesome. Kino is a self-reflective character that reminds me a whole lot of... Well, I don't know. I think she reminds you a lot of those times whenever you start contemplating life and the nature of how people are, in a way. I know that's getting super serious, but it's a sort of show that gets you to think of serious things without having a whole lot of serious nature to it. Even though there is some points whenever the show gets very serious and has some serious real talk moments. Kino's Journey is a wonderful show. I even got the DVD for pretty cheap on Amazon. You can find it there if you just look it up. It's super good, and I recommend it. There I go again. And that is my 10 favorite anime as of, I might say as of 2016, even though 2016, as of right now, is wrapping up in a few days. So pretty soon, it'll be 2017. So likely my next upload will be in 2017. So yay, it's the last video of the year. Good riddance, right? Anyways, thank you guys for watching so much. I would encourage you to subscribe so you can see my new stuff. I'm trying to come up with some better topics to talk about. This was just an easy one to start my channel on. My last video is not worth watching. This is the real first video in my opinion. But you guys are awesome. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.